Okay, we were just going to get started. Um, Let me know when we've opened the Zoom room. Okay. Um, Welcome to the special meeting of the Larkspur City Council. It's Wednesday, November 19th at 2025 at 5:30. Can we have a roll call, please?
Handout.
I'm here.
Councilmember, please.
Here.
Councilmember Paulson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andre.
Here.
Wait.
Here. We are now going to adjourn to closed session and we'll be coming back here after closed session is over and starting the meeting no sooner than 6:30. All right, we've reconvened in open session, and we have no reportable action from our closed session. We are now in the regular meeting of the Larkspur City Council, and it's still the same day, believe it or not, November 19th, 2025. It's now 6:32. So can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Handout.
I am back.
Councilmember Margulies.
I'm here.
Councilmember Paulson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andre.
Here.
Mayor Way.
Here. If you can, could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? To stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. That brings us to item number 2, which is public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council for matters that are not on tonight's agenda. And since it's not on tonight's agenda, we can't have a lengthy conversation about it, but we could we could add that to a future agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council for members that are not on the agenda, for items that are not on the agenda? Wait, you're on the agenda. Yeah. Sorry, unless you want to talk about something totally different. Okay. Anyone online? Okay. So I'll close that. And that brings us to item 3, which is a presentation. And we have 2 tonight. And the first one is an update from the Larkspur Chamber of Commerce. And come join us, Marty. Introduce yourself and so the camera knows who you are.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Marty Murphy. I am the part-time executive director of the Larkspur Chamber of Commerce. I have been since last November, and thank you for having me here. I did present information to Dan Schwartz. Thank you very much for that. So I tried to present everything in advance for you, that for your review and consideration. And of course, I welcome questions. Very excited to add, since I added this, that we just had another 25, 30 Instagram followers. So we're over 1,800. And this morning, thanks to a donation from the new owners, Bernadette and Chet Sullivan of the Corbett's Hardware, who've taken over. They're lovely. They joined us as members in November, that they were able to donate lights for the tree trunks downtown, which I worked in partnership with our Public Works Department to assure that they were put up safely this year as the trees continue to grow. And I did that this morning myself. So we did that in a very no additional cost to the city. And I'm just really excited about that. And I met the new pop-up Bloom's Flower Shop gal, Becky Porter, and we're going to partner with her on some things, as well as Devil's Teeth. I said hello to Maria today and bought, it really is one of the best breakfast burritos, I must say. And so I'm very excited about that. We have lots of things going on with holiday, but let me pause and see if you had any questions. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody on the council have questions, Marty? Sure.
Marty, I know you kind of talk with Dan and we're kind of out of the loop on this. Do you provide like P&Ls or like some financials so we can kind of see how you're doing, see how our money is being used, things like that?
Absolutely. And I apologize. Julie Richards, who's very much on it as our volunteer treasurer, had to travel today, and we welcome questions on that. We have provided Dan in the past and throughout our review period, but I'd be happy to make sure it's the most accurate. I just wanted to make sure you had every last point of data or every last expense, as there were a last few coming in from the wine stroll. But we can provide that to you, as she'll be back very soon and get that to you.
So let me ask Dan, do you have financial, I mean, I'm not sure what's been provided because I don't think it ends up trickling down to us.
I don't think I've asked for them since we did the budget, so I
Okay.
haven't seen anything recently.
But I think
Okay.
that's something we can definitely, before our budget cycle, I think it'd be great information to share.
Absolutely.
Because it hadn't been shared too regularly in the past.
Mhm.
And I think it helps for the budget to see what that is.
Absolutely. No, and I agree. And I'm someone who always wants to be fully as shown and full transparency. So let's look forward to getting that to you promptly, like as soon as she gets back.
All right. So, and let me just ask real quick, and this is more of a council question. I know there's a financial request with this item. I would love to see kind of the financials, before addressing that. I don't know if that's something that we were supposed to vote on today or give you direction today. How would you like us to handle that?
So that request was submitted by the chamber, but this was agendized as a presentation.
Got it.
Excuse me. So it'll have to come back as an actual item for you to consider, and we can get the information before
Right.
you consider the request.
Okay. Perfect. Thank
I
you.
didn't see that in here.
Uh,
Was it, did I miss that?
Did that go out?
I didn't see a request.
I think in the attachment
Okay.
onto the presentations,
Okay.
there's a financial request.
And we were looking to just receive for the balance of the $20,000 of the initial $50,000 for which we would ask, which would carry us until the next period of the fiscal year for all of our operationals for coming into this season and into the spring, summer, and for potential spring, summer events.
So can we put that on the agenda in the next 2 meetings, or is that something that has to be?
I need to look at the December 3rd meeting. It's possible. Otherwise it'll be January, I think 7. I have in my
Yeah,
head.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not, and I wasn't sure if this was a voting today or what the status was of everything, but obviously we want to provide updated data on a continual basis anyhow.
Do you need these funds for any holiday projects that are coming up? And if so, if you need us to vote on it before January, you got to let us know. Otherwise, we're going to vote on it in January.
Well, fortunately, the holiday event this year, because the downtown merchants didn't want to close the businesses. Of course, there's my time. I've been partnership. Citrine renewed their membership, and we're partnering with them on promotion and marketing, which is fantastic. We're not spending in excess of monies right now. I'm helping with the Hanukkah event with Rabbi Mendel. He's covering that. I was just helping put the permit through, and that's going to be in the exact same location as it was.
Okay.
So but definitely in terms of operating costs, I would hope that we could vote, and that's our website, planning a spring event. And as you know, none of the monies from the council may be used for my compensation. So it's kind of a tripod of our sponsorships, our prosperity partners, our memberships, which I have been growing. And then our events monies would come for me and for mixers and for other things, but it is critical monies for our ongoing operations coming into 2026. So fortunately, we're keeping it very tight and using Larkspur Community Foundation, donating a hot cocoa stand. We're getting a volunteer carolers, getting other merchants to help for December, but definitely coming into January, just operational costs and planning whatever the city or our merchants would like to do in the spring.
So, just so that I'm clear, we voted 50,000, no, 30. Okay, so they're asking for the residual of that?
Yeah, an additional 20. I understand.
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as a residual the way you adopted the budget.
Okay.
They're asking for $20,000.
Okay. So we can maybe figure out a time if we can, agendize that, to have a more robust discussion with the financials.
Okay.
Okay. And anything else?
I'm just really excited that we've never had more partnerships going on with Spark Foundation. As you might have
Yeah.
noticed, we were able to we purchased through monies for an event in past for the wine stroll tents and so forth. And we loaned that to the schools. I'm making that available to merchants to help them use those. It saved them hundreds of dollars during their fundraiser. We'll be doing the same for the Hanukkah event. I welcome merchants, any items or materials that we now own by virtue of the wine stroll or anything else. It's my pleasure if they'll come over and help me carry it down from the second floor because there's no elevator and I have a bad back. The two 58-year-old women dragging anyhow. I can't do it all the time, but seriously, it's our pleasure to loan any of those things. I've done all the cross marketing. We're working tremendously with Zero Waste Marin, the Marin Clean Energy, with Marin Sanitary Service and partnerships. I'll be promoting the Perry's Christmas tree lighting. Again, we're super excited about our Downtown on Magnolia event, which is focused on our merchants. And in partnership, wrapping that up with the Lark Creek Shops. I'm in close partnership with them. I think one of the great things is just bringing everyone together. Like at the Lark Creek Shops, for example, they wanted more gift items available. Corbett's is going to come up there at their event at a table and provide that. It's cross-marketing. It's focused on our local merchants instead of pulling a business from another town or another city. Hayes Valley Medical, which enjoyed dressing up as an elf and being part of our Downtown Magnolia event last year, she said, can we do something in our parking lot? I said, why don't you do a table at the Lark Creek Shops, keep it all on one side for safety, and she's going to help at the Santa booth, as will I. So I'm working very hard on making this cohesive. Last year, it was a disjointed before I started, in my opinion, to be honest, a holiday event. This is unified. It's going to be downtown. It's anyone else on Magnolia, and I've been talking to North Magnolia shops. Anyone is welcome. I will support them. And the last thing I will say is that we've got a couple new board members I'm very excited about. Lori Emerson, who is owner of the Hut and Hachidori Studio. It is critical, as everyone here knows, Jay knows, it's so important to have retail. If you haven't been in retail shoes, you don't know how it is. And she's there. She's super excited and energized to focus on downtown. And then we have Dave Keatley of Keatley Wines. We're very excited for him to bring his expertise as both an entrepreneur, his finance experience. So we're regrowing the board. We're very excited. We certainly welcome more. But anyhow, I love what I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty. And I think the Magic on Magnolia, Jay was going to give a little update on that. Is that all right?
I've really organized pretty much all of it, but I've been excited to partner and I've been working closely with his daughter Maya on that.
Okay.
And so I created the design. I've gotten all the folks. I've talked to everybody in town, so I'm excited to hear anything new that he might have, but we've got it ready to go.
Great. Okay. Any additional material you want to add, Jay? Come up to the counter.
Hello, council members. Happy holidays. I wanted to thank council and Marty and the chamber for efforts in getting lights up and making the downtown sparkle. It deserves it. We all love it. I think people that live here, the merchants, people that pass through here, all appreciate it immensely. We want to have more events like this that are very simplistic. They don't require a lot of money, just involvement from the retailers. We plan on those later. The other thing I wanted to talk about was parking. I'm here to humbly request a reprieve in issuing parking tickets in the downtown area. There are a number of cities in Marin County that do away with writing tickets, and I request that we do away with writing tickets to the downtown area parkers on Magnolia until mid-January, early January, some date that could be determined. We've got competition from malls around here, all offering free parking. And if anybody has any hesitation at all to come downtown, it's that they might have to pay a parking ticket.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Jay.
thank you.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jay,
please.
yeah, can I
Yeah.
ask a question? My understanding was the parking restrictions were meant to benefit the stores so that people don't just park all day and leave their car and go, to the park or whatever it is, that the stores wanted the turnover of the parking spots. I
think they do
misreading that?
thematically. Yeah, that's 100% right. But I think what's happening is there is a fear by merchants and by consumers that are coming downtown that they're going to get a ticket. So they go downtown, they have lunch, they stop in a couple of stores, they go over the 2-hour limit. That's at least the impression that they have. So I'm speaking for the other retailers in the area. They all seem to call me and ask me to share their thoughts. So I am.
Let me ask you on a separate note, and again, I don't know if this is a consideration or even a possibility. And again, I don't know if you speak for the merchants, but would they prefer something like a parking meter where if somebody's going to be there for more than 2 hours, they can put more money in the meter and stay for more than 2 hours? I mean, as a way to kind of preserve the turnover, but yet not have people have fear that there's an issue? I mean,
I think it's a good question.
Well, I think that'll have to be some.
Yeah.
I don't want to now, but I'm just curious your opinion.
The retailer, I being one, the retailers and I, we have a group, loosely speaking, and we meet at Citrine Yoga Studio and we chat about these things. So I've been elected, the person to share these thoughts and feelings. I will also share your thoughts and feelings with them.
Okay, appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Is there something you wanted to, you have the mic?
Just a small, as it was always explained to me, and the parking studies sort of bear it out, that the merchants lobbied for the 2-hour parking because of the restaurants and the theater.
Right.
And that patrons of the restaurants and the theater were taking up parking spaces for too long. That was how I had understood was the issue.
Okay.
Can I address what Dan just said? That may be exactly what you heard, but what I'm hearing now is that it's not so much the patrons of the restaurants, because they're actually going into dinner after the stores close. It's more their workers
Oh,
that are
well,
parking on the streets and in the lots all day for an 8-9 hour shift.
okay. Thank you. And Magic on Magnolia is Saturday, the
December 6th,
December 6th. And there's also something on the 7th?
on the 7th down at Lark Creek Shops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Marty. Thank you, Jay.
Oh, I'll just
Come to the mic. Yeah.
Sorry, quickly on that. Yeah. So, and thank you, Jay, for your kind words. I'm just delighted to be partnering, and Citrine Makers Mark is welcomed and
Oh, great.
anticipated every year. So we're super excited. I was just going to say again, what I tried to do is make it celebratory from the Saturday through the Sunday to keep driving people downtown. But then just as downtown is wrapping up, then people start going. So to keep it again connected.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we'll be celebrating downtown both days. And again, a big shout out and thank you to the Lark Community Foundation as well.
Terrific. Okay. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Jay. That brings us to 3.2, which is the Climate Action Forum update. Who is doing this update?
I'm going to take my best shot since I wasn't the staff person. As you know, our leader for this effort is Assistant City Manager Shannon O'Hare, and she is fortunate to be out on parental leave. So I'm going to take my best shot based on her notes to tell you what happened at the Climate Action Forum that took place in October on the 8th. So there are some, one of the things that staff's doing and reports out and takes feedback from the CAF is our regional activities. One of the partners that we work with quite closely is Zero Waste Marin. There's an ongoing effort to work on some sort of program to recognize and certify businesses that are doing zero waste practices. So Larkspur is part of that dialogue. And I think the CAF expressed a lot of enthusiasm for doing more to recognize businesses that are doing the right thing. One of our other partners that you've heard a lot about in the last few years is the the Marin Climate and Energy Partnership, MCEP. And that group is this is a staff level group that really works to coordinate so that we're not duplicating efforts across different jurisdictions. And so there's a lot of sharing of information right now on what types of energy studies can be relied upon so that we can put the green codes and REACH codes in place somehow in a way that's legal, given the issues that we've run into in terms of submitting code changes to the state in light of the legislation that put a deadline earlier this year. So I think that's something that the forum's very supportive of, that we continue that effort. And I actually think we probably will be reporting to the forum over its next 2 or 3 meetings what our plan is to move forward. So we're spending a lot of staff time right now on this issue because it's that time of year to be thinking about all our codes and making sure they're correct and where we want them to be going into next year. And then this longer term goal of getting your policy initiatives folded into our system in a way that we can defend. In addition, the forum has been really encouraging the city to focus on two particular areas of activity. One is to promote availability of EV charging. And so since the CAF met, at its encouragement and Shannon started the ball rolling, I've been working on it. with Public Works Director, we've started to talk to one of our apartment owners to figure out how we might have a public-private partnership, because Larkspur's got old infrastructure, and trying to put some of these modern devices in ways that they can serve the public is really challenging. So if we can do it collaboratively in a way that makes sense and makes charging available, particularly in some of our multifamily neighborhoods, that would be great. So the forum really encouraged staff to focus there. Another longer term goal with a lot of tendrils is to sort of look at how to encourage more electrification of appliances and other devices that people are using. And I think that has multi-facets to it. There's a lot in these notes that I think the CAF talked quite a bit about how that might be done as a regulatory or legislative scheme, but there also was some discussion about whether some of the money that council's given the CAF to think about putting into use might be used in some sort of incentive program for people to trade in gas-powered items for electric items. So that's something staff's in researching now. It's been done in other jurisdictions.
And you're meeting again in January? Is that?
Meeting in December.
Oh,
Because there's a special council meeting on the 10th, we've moved the forum to the 11th.
okay.
So everyone's invited. And then the last thing, we continue to work on our internal goals with respect to our climate action plan. And one of those is electrification of our vehicles. And as I've discussed with all of you, and Shannon's discussed with all of you, we don't own a lot of vehicles in Larkspur. So we've been focusing our efforts on our police.
Yeah.
And it's going great. It's been too successful too fast. So we actually had to slow down so we can get the charging infrastructure to a level that makes sense so that we can constantly charge vehicles while vehicles are out on the street. But I hope people have seen, we still need to do a little more promotional decals, but I hope people have seen, we have 2 Blazers now out on patrol, electric Blazers. We also have some F-150s that our watch commanders will be using if there's an incident that they need to take command of. And then all our unmarked cars, so those are cars that are used by our staff that are not out on patrol or not out doing regular duties, those are all electric now. And our community service officers are driving electric cars. And it's a pretty diverse fleet. We got Fords, Chevys, we got some Teslas in there. So we're starting to be, you can come down and talk to us and we can give you feedback on what we like and don't like about these different vehicles. So I don't know if Councilmember Martinez is.
Okay. Any questions on that presentation? Well, you guys, you've done a lot in a short amount of time. That's fantastic. I know there's a lot of members of the community who were really interested in us pushing a lot of things forward. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the audience about that? Nope. Any questions from online? All right. That brings us to the consent calendar. 3 items on the consent calendar. Does any council member want to pull an item for discussion? Any public want to pull an item for discussion? Okay, then I'll take a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? That brings us to city manager's report.
Just a few items that wanted to acknowledge. You heard it already. But the city was very pleased. You gave me the discretion to do some sponsorships in the community. We were very pleased to be a sponsor of the lights downtown. I think they look great. Thank you very much, Marty, and the chamber. They look really good. And then I wanted to also let the council know, and folks who may not see always what's going on behind the scenes. We've had some turnover in our community development department. We're a little short-staffed. So made the decision, we're going to close on Wednesday next week to the public. So that we can take care of a few things behind the scene and a few people can have their Thanksgiving holiday. So we've put signs up. If somebody has an urgent issue, we can still deal with it, but we won't have any counter staff next Wednesday, so we'll be closed. And then just want to let folks know, I've been in the library facility a couple times recently. It's impressive and it has made great strides. And we're getting very excited that we're on track to be open next spring. So folks can start getting, every time you see something new, it's quite an impressive project.
Is it possible, I toured recently, so is it possible if any of the council members want to reach out to you to take a tour? I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, I did. It was.
Yeah. So you should go. Have you done it lately?
Yeah, no, not yet.
Okay, I highly recommend it just so that because we're voting on, well, I think we finished in our votes on allocating money, but I think it's really a good opportunity for you to see where our money is going. Okay, any questions? No? All right. That brings us to council members' reports. Anybody want to start?
I've got nothing today.
Couple of things. I do want to reiterate that the Climate Action Forum meeting was already discussed, but I just want to bring it up one more time, that instead of meeting on December 10th, we will be meeting on December 11th from 6:30 to 8:30 in City Hall right here. And we hope you can attend if you're interested in helping us with prioritizing the climate action plan. And then I'm honored to have received the appointment from the Cal City's president to the Environmental Quality Policy Committee.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to share that with the community. The committee reviews issues related to air, water, and water quality, the California Environmental Quality Act, solid waste, recycling, hazardous materials, coastal issues, utilities, and wildfires. So pleased to announce that I will be participating on
Great.
behalf of Larkspur.
So are you representing Larkspur or the North Bay Division?
Larkspur.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Those policy committees, I've sat on a few of them early on in this role. It's really interesting because you sit with other council members from all over the state and you really get to hear lots of different policy things that they're doing. Especially, I sat on the public safety one,
Okay.
and that was mostly about fire and police, and with Larry Chu, and it was very interesting to learn how other communities are doing. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Anything? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go quick. So I chaired the Flood Zone 9 meeting yesterday, and we know that the Ross Valley has a lot of flooding problems from Fairfax down to where we are. One project that was actually really nice to hear about was the Corte Madera Creek Flood Reduction Project. So that's by the College
Yeah.
of Marin. Yeah, so they took the walls and they reduced the height, and basically there's a lot of flow management going on there, and also the Granton pump station. So the project was $3 million, and two things that were nice. One is it was $3 million. They didn't go over budget, and two, it was done in 38 days. And that might ring some bells with the Bonaire Bridge, because there's a lot of fish. There's a very narrow window where you're able to work. So they got that all done. The idea is there's so much, dredging of the creek, berms, and then right now in San Anselmo building bridge too. But, for the council, I just wanted to reiterate, we had this in an early meeting, perhaps in 26, we can agendize discussions because we're part of that district. Everyone's property tax is, as I said, it's almost the same as MWPA that we're paying. And, it's due to expire. And even with the time we have left, as a advisory board rep, I'd love to see what Larkspur's interests are, because it ties in with sea level rise and it ties in with just general, even our, storm drain project. I mean, the entire management of increased flooding is something that's going to be important to all of us. So
That's a good idea. We haven't had a flood discussion in probably 5 years.
yeah, I think it'd be great to bring in, some county staff and to lay out some options, like what can Larkspur do, and start to put it out there for the voters. Do we even want to vote? Because, the tea leaves say that the tax will not pass, but what does that mean to the community? Is that a good thing? What are the alternatives? So I'd love to have that discussion next year.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Just my quick report, because the Chief Martin is here, is going to do most of it tonight. Last week was the Central Marin Fire Authority meeting, and Councilmember Candela and myself are representatives. I'm not going to report out on things because it's on our business item tonight, which is probably what the chief's going to talk about. That was most of the content of what we did at the meeting, which was about the Fire Protection Development Impact Fee. So we'll hear more about it soon. Any questions from the audience? No. Okay, that brings us to public hearings, and tonight we have two public hearings. And it looks like our whole night's going to be the fire, and which is, you're always welcome. So the first is a resolution confirming the record of costs and setting a special assessment of lien against the property for the abatement of a public nuisance by removal of weeds and refuge at 217 Via La Cumbre in Greenberry. Could we have a staff report on this?
Yeah, I could take this.
Do you have good news for me?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, no, I think we have to go
Oh.
with the hearing tonight,
Okay.
unfortunately. So this is to report on a nuisance property that we have located at 217 Via La Cumbre, which appears to be an abandoned single-family residence that sits on the uphill side of the roadway that first came into our purview, at least into my purview as the fire marshal in 2018. When I first started at Central Marin Fire Authority, we started receiving phone calls from residents about unmaintained property, overgrown vegetation. So we were able to reach out to the property owner at the time who lived there, and we were able to abate the property in 2018, or the property owner took care of the hazards as they were identified then. Once again, it's rinse and repeat. So it started again in 2019. We started getting more complaints about the same property. We then started finding out that it was more and more difficult to get a hold of the property owner as he was no longer living on site. However, we were able to make contact in 2019 and able to get it abated by a voluntary abatement, meaning that the property owner gave us permission to go on site and abate the properties. Ever since then, so going back to 2018, every year this property comes up again as a nuisance where we get multiple phone calls and complaints from neighbors concerned about the fire hazard in the area. And looking at the property, we do not try to abate properties until we identify they're a complete nuisance or completely overgrown to the point where we feel that is negligent and it's causing public safety concerns to other neighbors in the community if there was to be a fire there. So as you can see within the staff report, we have been out to the property since 2018 every year from somewhere around May through September and October, to the point where we would have to go to court, get a court-ordered abatement order, a subpoena basically to abate the property. We'd have to post the property, go out and abate the property. And we've been fortunate enough within the last 3 or 4 years, the property owner, for some reason, finds out about the abatement and this hearing that we have here in order for us to recoup some of our costs, and we'll show up with a check and pay for whatever all costs that were involved with these properties. Unfortunately, within this year of 2025, we've been unsuccessful in making contact with the property owner through various methods that we've had in the past, which is through phone messages, phone calls, through every number that we have available for the property owner, registered and certified mail that have been returned. We've posted notices on the property and have had zero correspondence with the property owner. So in September of this year, we went ahead and acquired another court abatement order so we can go onto the property. Did that in September. The abatement order happened in October. And then now we are here before your council to try to recoup the costs of not only the Central Marin Fire Authority, but for the city attorney's time and for his office time on trying to prepare all of these documents and to recoup the cost for staff. And then within your municipal code, you have the ability to recoup that by holding a public hearing and putting a lien on the property.
Yeah.
And with that, I am open to any questions that you may have.
Is there something you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say, I do believe we got notified that one of our notices was received. So when we sent it certified,
Okay.
So since the chief was last informed, we now know one notice was acknowledged and received.
Okay. Okay, before I open the public hearing, are there questions about this matter, or this has come to us before? Are there any questions about this process?
I do.
Sure.
Yeah, my question would be, given that we are, well, thank you so much for your report, first off. And given that we're seeing this as a rinse and repeat problem year over year over year, is there another approach we can take to prevent us from having to send the fire chief or somebody from the fire administration to the court to get the approval to do the abatement, using city attorney's time so that we can just move forward with the process.
Are there other tools?
This is an extremely challenging issue that a number of communities deal with. It is a cumbersome process, but at the end of the most significant issue is that the ability of the city to go onto private property to do work is subject to constitutional limitations, and going to the court to get the court to authorize the abatement work addresses those issues. Doing it without that authorization puts the city at risk. It may seem low risk because the property owner seems so disengaged, but it is a significant legal risk where it would be treated as any litigation would be brought under provisions of federal law where the plaintiff would also be entitled to recover attorney's fees. So it does cost the city some money and time. It is cumbersome. But at the end of the day, we are able to recoup the funds through the process that we're going through tonight. And other than that, I think that the reality is the fire department is able to address this with every other property except this one. So it's statistically pretty good. It's just the process is actually working, except for, and again, this is something that happens in a number of communities. There are just some absentee property owners that are disengaged, and this is the best tool we have available.
Thank you.
Okay, question?
Yeah, quick question. Do we have any requirement that a property owner give us current contact information if they're not going to be residing on the property so that we can reach out to them if there is an emergency or there's some other reason for us to get in contact with them?
I don't think so.
I don't think we have that in place. I do believe that some cities have provisions along those lines related to vacant property as part of an overall vacant property regulatory scheme. So it is something that we could look at.
Usually we go through property tax roll records for the property because
that is usually
the
current.
usual.
I think that the reality is that some absentee property owners are simply they own the property, but they are disengaged and are somewhat indifferent to these issues because they no longer live in the community.
All right. Can I request if we are in touch with this property owner and we're going to put a lien on the property and we already know that one of the certified letters was received, can we somehow reach out to this property owner and ask for an email address so in the future we can get in touch with them before we just send them a bill? Because it'll end up saving them money in the long run.
Well, this has been a long-standing issue with
Right,
this.
but
I'm not 100% convinced the issue is
that they're not
our
getting there.
communication reaching. It's whether they're choosing to actually
Okay.
open it, receive it.
All right, fair.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll come back for more questions. I'm opening the public hearing. This is a public hearing, which means the public can weigh in and ask questions or give opinions. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak at this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I see one hand raised. Online, could we have that individual?
James Holmes, Larkspur.
Hello,
I'd
Mr.
just like to
Holmes.
say for the record, yes, hi. I'd like to say for the record, I don't have a problem with what's going on, but I'd like to make a couple of comments. I'd like to say for the record, and please correct me if I'm wrong, as I read the staff report and look at the pictures, the problem being addressed in this enforcement proceeding is specifically overgrown weeds. It is not the extreme draconian provisions in LMC 14.04, section 4907.4, 1 through 7, listed on page 2 of the staff report, which, as I explained at our last meeting, strict enforcement of these sections, specifically 3, 4, and 6, could basically defoliate many of the properties in Larkspur and destroy privacy and screening. It appears in this case these dead weeds provided no significant privacy and screening. I'd also like to just add that these kind of draconian provisions are actually at cross purposes with the objective of eliminating dry grass and weeds, because when vegetation is severely trimmed, excuse me, or removed, it's often replaced by the very type of dry grass and weeds that prompted this enforcement proceeding. I have seen this happen several places in the city, and I think there's a contradiction that points out that it would be arbitrary and extreme to enforce the anti-vegetation provisions as opposed to the dry grass and weeds and provisions. And finally, I don't know the circumstances of this unfortunate homeowner. They seem unusual, but I would point out that there are probably a number of Larkspur residents, perhaps aging and or living alone, who are just doing the best they can, maybe not to the full satisfaction of some of their more exacting or perhaps adverse neighbors, but are doing the best they can nevertheless with the limited energy and resources at their disposal, and that these kinds of circumstances should be taken into consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. You provided some very good information. And I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, so we're closing the public hearing, bringing it back to council. Anything else from the public comment that you would like to speak to? Okay. Any questions, further questions? Sounds like we have a resolution and we've had the public hearing. We've had no one who has contested that. So it sounds like I could take a motion to approve the resolution confirming the record of costs and setting a special assessment and lien against the property for the abatement of a public nuisance.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? No. Thank you. Do not go far. Don't you have more to do? Oh, it's tag team. Okay. That brings us to item 7.2, introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance 1094, amending various sections of Larkspur Municipal Code. Thank you for coming back on this matter. We did bring it up at our last council meeting, but there were a few questions about one of the sections, and I'm glad you're back to hopefully we can have some of those section questions answered. So do you have a staff report about this, or?
I'll do the quickest staff report that it's just bringing back the ordinance from last
Yes.
2 weeks ago with the amendments to the fire resale report section, adding definitions for townhouse and condo, and specifically accepting them from the requirements to receive those reports as the council requested at the last meeting.
Great.
Chief Martin is here for more specific questions.
And I think Vice Mayor Andre had a question about section, was it 14? Or the number? It was 14, section 14. I think we were clear on all the other sections of it, if I understand correctly, from 2 weeks ago, but there were some questions about section 14. So would you like to start?
Section 14?
Was it 14? Yeah.
Oh, I think, sorry, I think section 14 was corrected, so it looks good in this version. Thank you.
Well, that was easy, but this is a public hearing, so open the public hearing. Open the public hearing. Does any member of the public have any comments or questions in regards to the ordinance 1094 amending various sections of the Larkspur Municipal Code? Okay, seeing none in the chamber. Anyone online have a question or comment? Okay, closing the public hearing. That brings it back to us. Are there any further questions of the chief or of the staff? No. All right, then I'll take a motion to approve ordinance 1094.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1094.
I will second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Any abstentions? No. Okay, fantastic. That gives us to our business item, which is 8.1 Fire Protection Development Impact Fee Discussion. And we have a handout that's available on the dais, and I think it's also been posted online because Allison is the most efficient person in the world. So it's available for the public to view. Oh, Alex will be doing the staff report.
Yes, only.
You guys are moving all around tonight, so I got to keep track of who's going. What are you going to say, Ezra? Are you coming up next?
All right. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm just going to briefly introduce this item and then turn it over to Ruben. We also have our consultant from the Matrix Consulting Group, Kushbu Ingu, who's on the Zoom call, who will take us through the findings of their report. And then I'll close this out with some further discussion of what's been noted in the staff report. So again, we are here to discuss a fire protection impact fee, potentially implementing one for the city. And just as a bit of background here, the goal is to ensure that new residential development pays its fair share for the assumed increase in costs of the Central Marin Fire Authority as they provide services to these new units. And so I'm going to hand it off to Ruben here to take you through kind of the background and the genesis of this. And then again, we'll hear from Kushbu about the report itself. Thank you.
No, thank you, Alex. Members of the council, Ruben Martin, Fire Chief. We're here today to present a developmental impact fee for fire protection services. So the genesis of this study began sometime in mid 2024 when we started seeing all of the housing elements coming through your general plans with what was being proposed for the next 10 years by with the regional housing allocation numbers with the RENA and with what's being required through ABAG. We were looking at a significant increase within the jurisdictional boundaries of Central Marin, which include both Corte Madera and Larkspur. And our concern within the fire service was how can we maintain the existing level of fire protection services that are being currently experienced by our members of our jurisdiction as the jurisdiction continues to grow and expand. And the goal is to try to provide the same level of service to the new residents that the existing residents are serving or experiencing today without a diminishing level of service, without expanded response times, without not having enough resources to go on. And what we're seeing in Marin and experiencing in other communities is the only real place some of these facilities have to be built is going up. Since we really don't have the expansive land room to go out, the only place is these buildings are getting higher and higher. And some of these impact fees will be able to address some of our apparatus needs and some of our facility needs moving towards the future as we grow with the community and to be able to provide that same level of service. One of the things that with this study is we partnered with both the city of Larkspur staff and with the town of Corte Madera so we can all be in alignment. One of the reasons why we're going through the city and the town is because the fire authority doesn't have the regulatory or the statutory means to assess these types of fees onto developmental projects. And so the city and town does, so we are able to go through that. The other component is Central Marin Fire Authority doesn't own any of the buildings, so it reduces the level of impact if we did have that regulatory authority. The only thing we own is the assets, is the vehicle. So you'll see as we move through this project or this study with our consultant, it'll show an add-on fee for equipment and for apparatus. And it's just to be specific, these fees are very regulated on what they can be used for. They can only be used for equipment, apparatus, which is the vehicles, or facilities, and they're designed to grow as the community grows. And as we move on, let's go on to the next slide. And as you can see, currently, the city of Larkspur does not have any fire developmental impact fees within your fee structure. So this is a new fee that's being imposed. And as I mentioned, there's primarily can only be used for facilities and or apparatus as we grow with the community. And so our study with our consultant looked at all of our housing element numbers along with an estimated projection beyond that. So they took about a 15-year projection from 2025 all the way to 2040 to try to figure out what is that anticipated growth, what is the population anticipation growth, and how should we then assess those fees appropriately to these new developments so they can pay their fair share as the community grows. With that, I will turn it over to our consultant, Kushbu Engel with Matrix Consulting, and she can take us on through the methodology that was used to conduct this study.
So before you begin, is there any questions of that introduction? No. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Good evening. I'm Kush Wingle, Vice President with Matrix Consulting Group, and I work closely with Ruben and Alex on developing this impact fee study. So like Ruben mentioned, just the background for you all, that the city doesn't currently have one of these. There were two different components that we considered. Like Ruben mentioned, it can only be used for infrastructure. So we looked at both facilities and those Larkspur specific stations. And then the equipment, which is where the Central Marin Fire Authority comes into place. The fee study had a 2040 horizon for development. So the impact fee study kind of looks at projections, and we looked at those projections all the way to 2040. Anything up beyond that felt a little too speculative. So 2040 was kind of where we felt it was appropriate. And then as part of this, we also did a comparative survey of surrounding jurisdictions that charge this type of fee. If we can go to the next slide. So briefly talking about the methodology, it starts with taking a look at what that projected growth is. So like Ruben and Alex both mentioned, the city, due to the regional housing needs assessment, is anticipating quite a bit of residential growth and development. And so part of this was taking a look at what that future growth looks like and what's the impacts associated with that future growth. So once we determine that growth, we determine what's the appropriate proportionality that should be borne by future development. Again, future development can't pay for everything. So we need to make sure that there's that appropriate nexus that exists between kind of maintaining that existing service level. So if we have X number of stations per resident, X number of equipment per resident, kind of maintaining that level of service going forward as the population continues to grow. There are certain state regulations that dictate what are the requirements of an impact fee, AB 1600 and AB 602 specifically. And part of that includes making sure that we're documenting, what types of projects or infrastructure costs these impact fees would be used for, as well as making sure that any sort of residential projects going forward would be assessed based on a square footage basis. We can go to the next slide. So big picture results, there were three major residential categories that we looked at: single family, multifamily, and assisted living and memory care. So you'll see kind of that first column, that impact fee, that's the city specific impact fee. So that's the Larkspur station impact component. And then we take a look at what that CMFD or Central Marin Fire Authority add-on is. So that's the equipment pieces that are kind of relatable. And then together, those two comprise the maximum justifiable impact fee as it relates to fire services. So again, this is really the ceiling of the impact fee that you can charge. You can't charge anything above this. If we go to the next slide. The purpose of tonight is, again, to seek input from you all on where and how the city should set its fees. What's been calculated through this nexus analysis is the maximum or the ceiling of the fee. Just a reminder that as much as we would love to, impact fees can only be used to fund capital or infrastructure costs, so no operational costs. So the fact that you may need additional firefighters, that unfortunately can't be funded through impact fees. As part of this comparison, we did look at two of the other fire districts near you that do charge fire impact fees under kind of the new state codes on a per square foot basis, and the maximum justifiable fees that actually got calculated are lower than those other two fire districts. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Alex.
Yes, thank you, Kushbu. So I did just want to touch base. We've heard on these projected growth timelines. So as noted in the report with the 2040 plan horizon, that anticipates 2,155 new residents. And then as the council likely remembers, our regional housing needs allocation is a total of 979 units. I've provided the breakdown in the table there for you. So this fee would align with several applicable general plan and housing element policies about providing increasing services, and then as I'm about to say, or about to get into, incentivizing affordable housing. So with that, in addition to this flat fee, staff is recommending, should the council be interested, a 50% fee reduction for projects which have 100% affordable, or which are 100% affordable to low and very low income households. ADUs are exempt from impact fees if they're under 750 square feet. And again, this would align with several of the housing element goals and policies. I do want to make it clear because it wasn't quite clear in the report, and I apologize here. When we talk about 100% low and very low, really where that comes in is the city's inclusionary policy includes a requirement for things like moderate income rather than strictly low and very low. So this would be an incentive to forego those moderate income units and instead provide only low and very low, and then they would get this reduced fee. So with that, I will conclude my remarks here, and staff recommends that the council review the report, discuss, and direct staff to return at a future meeting with a resolution and ordinance to implement the fee. Thank you.
Dan, you want to
I
add?
did want to let the council know we've been working collaboratively with Corte Madera on this study. Originally, the plan was that we would both bring these for workshops because it's a new type of fee and we wanted you to be able to talk about it without having to consider adopting it immediately. Corte Madera had a change in their planning because they have two projects that are getting pretty close to being turned in. And so they felt an urgency to adopt this last night. My understanding is they did.
Yes, it got adopted.
They adopted the same language?
Yes.
Okay.
So they actually did adopt these fees for their jurisdiction so that they'd be in place for development. We have a little more time. If you are interested in this, we're going to bring it to you at your next meeting as a public hearing.
So I have a question. Our jurisdictional boundary is Larkspur, and Central Marin Fire at last week's meeting extended our service area to include Oak Village, or what was it? Oak Hill, to be able to provide fire services to Oak Hill, which is outside of. Am I getting that incorrect?
Yeah, you're using different government parlance, so I'm gonna feel compelled to correct you because we did not change our jurisdiction. We agreed to serve other jurisdictions' responsibility.
So would this impact fee then apply since we're servicing them and we are providing? Okay. That was okay. Thanks for clarifying, but that was because we will be providing fire service to them.
Yes, and that's why we brought to, as a reminder, we brought to the council a contract for a professional service agreement with the county to be able to recoup some of the costs to be able to provide fire protection services.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that impact fee that we're looking at would not apply to that development.
No, it would not apply.
Okay. Okay. Any questions about this? Tonight, it's a business item. It's being introduced. And if we are, the recommendation, if we are interested in moving forward with this, that it comes back to us as a resolution. Stephanie, it looks like you had a question.
Yeah, I do have a question. So this fee is assessed on a per square foot basis. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And it's a one-time fee?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess, for like a 2,000 square foot house, it would be, $2,500 or $2,500 roughly is the fee. I mean, I just worry that for these larger multifamily homes, I mean, the cost of development is so high already. Do we disincentivize people from, building by just adding on another fee? And how is this not covered through? Because once these buildings come online, they will be paying property taxes. So how do we tell the developer or the homeowner that this isn't already covered through your property taxes?
So two food for thought items. The first is that part of the concept here is that all the development that's already occurred in Larkspur and all the property tax that's already been paid in Larkspur was invested to some proportion in fire protection. And the idea here is you're asking new development to lay out some investment to sort of represent a fair share of what they weren't here to pay for to build up in the first place. And that's a common practice in the utility world. So it's a well-established principle. I think the second issue that you want to think about that I think is one of the reasons Corte Madera was in such a hurry that they passed an urgency measure last night. These new developments are going to be taller than we currently have equipment to serve. So I think one of the chief's fears, how do we get the right piece of equipment to save a person on the 5th or 6th floor of an apartment building? And should all the taxpayers in Larkspur have to fully bear that cost for that new development? That's the one that caused the need for the new piece of equipment. Like that, those are some of the things you need to think about. I appreciate your questions. It's always a challenge about fees like this. And certainly you're going to hear from developers at some point that it's too much. So I appreciate that.
But do we have to assess fees then on the single family, or are we, I mean, I understand that you need maybe a bigger ladder truck or apparatus to reach multi-story buildings, but I mean, we are assessing it on single family homes. So how do we tell the single family homeowner that this is, that we need this fee?
So I'll just say that, as Kushbu had mentioned, this is the maximum justifiable fee that you could charge if the council wished to. It could lower the single family fee beneath what's been proposed, the $1.46 per square foot.
So one of the things we also look at is how much of this new development is either going to be multifamily or single family, because single family homes also provide an impact on emergency services, whether it is for public service, public assist call, medical aid, all that. We've got to look at, with our recent study of standards of cover, we looked at our utilization hours used by unit. So basically, how busy are our units? And typically through the national standard, if you start looking at NFPA, for a fire engine, you start looking at 10% UHU, or utilization hours used by unit. And then at that point, you have to start looking at, do I need to start adding an additional engine that's fully staffed to be able to start responding to incidents? And so what we look at is our total UHU hours we currently sit, as our 2024 study stated, is we're anywhere between 7 to 9% during our peak hours. So we're getting close to that unit hours utilized. So now if we start looking at tremendous amount or a new development or a planned community coming in with single family homes, they're going to have a direct impact on fire protection services when you start looking at both ambulance and fire. And so that's how we look at providing equitable fees for both single family residences and multifamily residences that are going up.
And this applies only to new development, not remodeled homes or anything of that sort?
Yes.
Okay. And what other impact fees are already charged for a development? I know the schools charge some. Did the schools charge an impact fee?
There's a school fee, there's a traffic fee, a road
Traffic fee? Those are pretty much the two categories
I think we have a parks impact fee as well.
so this would be,
It's the developer has the option to potentially pay a park fee in lieu of development of park. So it's slightly different than this concept, but yes, there is a fee.
Yeah.
Just a kind of to get some rough numbers. So when let's say we get 1,000 units, and it seems to me that I'm going to use rough numbers, but just to get an idea, and Alex, please correct me, but about $1,000 a square foot for construction. And so we're talking about $1.5 billion of new value added in Larkspur. Roughly, what's the property tax going to be on that?
I don't know that I have that information for you tonight.
So Dan, I think when someone in Larkspur pays their 1% base, how much does Larkspur get? I think there's a formula, 20 cents or 5 cents or something
It
like
depends
that.
on where you are in town, but we estimate 21 as a 21%. Just it can be a little bit less, a little more, depending on exactly where you live. But
Okay. So 1.5 billion, and then 1% of that, and then 20% of that
21
would roughly be what we would see as additional revenue.
additional property tax.
Property tax revenue, which is 60% of what Larkspur has for our operations. And I'm just, again, it doesn't matter how accurate the numbers, but it's a whole lot more. So what we're saying is if it's $1,000 a square foot, let's take a small fraction of that. I think 28 cents is the lowest. Plus, actually, sorry, impact plus that is $1.46. So that's a really small part of $1,000. It's less, a tenth of a percent roughly. But has maybe this is a question for Matrix. Have you guys looked at the offset? If you do build these units, you're looking at $1.5 billion of assets with a 1% times 1/5 revenue. Does that cover this enough, or I'm just trying to get the trade-off here.
Yeah, but you're doing a little bit of apples and oranges because you're talking about annual property tax, which the city has to use to pay for everything.
Yeah.
So
25% of that is fire. So we could, factor that down again by 4.
You lost me.
One of the things to consider is that this is a one-time fee, not a reoccurring fee that happens every year as an
Like a
assessment.
property tax.
As a
Yeah.
property tax. So it's a one-time development impact fee that then gets put into what you would look at as like an enterprise account for this assessment. And so when you look at the amount of both capital costs that we're looking at, both for equipment and facilities, it's estimated within the report somewhere around 34 million. So you look at what the anticipated revenue or fee coming out of that is about 10% or 11% for apparatus of that fee and about 9% for the facilities. So you're looking at combined around about 10% of that 34 million is what we would probably anticipate in a one-time fees combined to be able to go towards improving and updating our facilities and equipment.
Okay. So, I mean, let me maybe simplify this a little bit. Instead of running the numbers, the new construction isn't subject to Prop 13. So they're paying, a whole lot of property taxes, which most of Larkspur isn't. But, to sort of explain it to the taxpayer to justify it, what we're saying is there's a fair share in just infrastructure, and that's an upfront one-time investment. And, we've decided that assisted memory is going to be the most expensive, even if it's multi-story because of the paramedic calls or whatever. And then multifamily, and that proration just means that it's almost like we're starting from scratch. We have this 30-some million dollar investment. It's amortized over that time. You're new on the block. You pay that amount like everyone else one time. That really, but nonetheless, we'll be getting a lot more tax revenue, which one could say would offset it because they're not Prop 13 exempted, which is where I was going with the envelope there, back of the envelope numbers.
Well, they are subject to Prop 13. They're just coming in with.
I'm sorry, but a very high base, yeah.
Yeah, again, I often think of the impact fee as should new development essentially get for free past investment in a system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the impact fee is intended to ask new development to contribute to past investment, right? And then you position the agency to make future investment.
Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, thank you.
Sky, did you reaching for your mic? Is there something you wanted to elaborate on?
Going to add a very fine adjustment to what the city manager said.
You didn't like my wonkish.
Impact fees can't pay for what's called basically a gap in past investment. So as new development comes online, it's generating new demand for the same services and infrastructure that has already been built, with the idea that either you need to expand what's already provided to pay for it, and so the fees are paying for new development's share of new stuff, not paying for past stuff. Just to clarify.
I apologize.
That's why we pay you the big bucks.
Another thing to bear in mind is, let's take Rose Lane, which was the last development that a Larkspur resident would think of as significant, right? But when that development happened, no one in the fire department said, "Oh my God, we don't have a means to service this neighborhood." But this development we're looking at now is on a scale where this is going to hurt our ability to serve the community.
if we get all 979 units built.
Well, and the nature of what they're building
Yeah.
and where they're building it, it's going to impact service if we don't do something.
Okay. Are there other questions? Yeah,
Madam Mayor.
of course.
Not a question necessarily. I am in favor of this because I think there is that catch up, which is fair. I think there's a question which we have to address at some point, and since we've been going at this since 3 o'clock, I'm not sure now's the time. But when we are raising money, how to determine who we raise that money from in a fair way. So a sales tax or a property tax or fee for services all raise money for the city, but different populations pay those fees.
Yeah.
And I guess the question before us, I mean, this makes sense. You know, somebody new is coming in, there's already been investment, you know, you got to catch up. I agree with that. But it's targeting a certain group, the construction or the new property owners. And we probably want to have some type of thought out philosophy when we talk about fees for, planning, the things that we were
Yeah.
talking about today, of an overall philosophy. How do we want to allocate what we are charging, where our revenues come from? Not sure we've ever had that conversation, but it may be, again, not right now, but something to think about that we can have next time we're talking about fees, if it matches the allocation that we're going for.
Okay, duly
with-
noted.
With that comment, though, I'm in favor of this because I do think that it's fair.
Are there questions from the audience on this business item? Is there anyone online who has a question? Seeing none, I will bring it back to us. Are there any further questions of staff? Their recommendation is that to review the report, discuss and direct staff to return at a future meeting with a resolution and ordinance to adopt the impact fee. Are we all in agreement with that? We don't need a motion for this event, just
The head nods are fine.
the head nods are fine. Okay, head nod. Okay, we've got all the head nods that, thank you. The staff recommendation will be followed. So you can come back to us, later with a resolution. We're not in an urgency situation like Corte Madera was, so will this come back shortly or?
Said next meeting, but I guess we don't have time to notice probably. Oh, it is. Okay. We're bringing it in the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That ends our content for tonight. So we are adjourned. Our next meeting is December 3rd here. And remember, that is also the Perry's Restaurant tree lighting that starts at 5 o'clock on that day, Wednesday, December 3rd. And I encourage everyone to see if they can get there first, because it is a benefit for Central Marin Fire will be there with is it toys? Santa Cop. Could you,
Yes,
I get it
we will
right?
be doing Santa on the Engine on December 6th and 7th, which is typically what we do is drive around through a neighborhood in Larkspur and in Corte Madera. For Larkspur, it's going to be December 6th between 3 and 5. We will post and I'll send out to Colby the exact route so our residents know where we're at. I believe it is December 8th or 9th for the tree lighting at Perry's.
No, that's Wednesday the 3rd.
Wednesday the 3rd, excuse me. And then we're also doing Santa drop off at Bon Air Center, which is our annual support of the Bon Air Shopping Center on December 6th, 7th, and then the following weekend from that, which is probably the 13th, 14th.
Fantastic. Okay, we are adjourned.